Hello everyone, I'm Adam the Fanatic, also known as Fanatic 15, and welcome to another installment of Nerdy Fanaticism. This is obviously a gaming-related channel, and thus far I've had a chance to review a variety of different genres. Platformers, tower defense, RPG, and most recently even a digital card game. But there's one genre that I've not yet had a chance to touch on very much. Action-adventure titles. Now, granted, Sword of the Samurai does venture into this territory, but that's a very unorthodox game all around, and I'm looking for something a little more traditional. Particularly the subgenres of MetroidVania and Zelda-Likes. But what if I told you that these two subgenres are actually the same thing? I see Metroidvanias talked about quite often, and yet I never see Zelda titles discussed among them. Now mind you, I'm referring specifically to classic-style Zelda games, not the numerous spin-offs that the series has had. Link's Crossbow Train is obviously not what I'm talking about here. That's clearly a gallery-style shooter. Let's start by defining our terms. If you'll allow me to quote Wikipedia, Metroidvania is a subgenre of action-adventure video games. Metroidvania games feature a large, interconnected world map the player can explore, though access to parts of the world is often limited by doors or other obstacles that can only be passed once the player has acquired special items, tools, weapons, or abilities within the game. Acquiring said improvements can also aid the player in defeating more difficult enemies and locating shortcuts in secret areas, and often includes retracing one's steps across the map. Unquote. For analysis, I will be comparing Metroid and Zelda in general. In the Metroid series, you play as Samus Aran, a bounty huntress that continuously upgrades her Chozo power suit with new weapons and tools. This comes in many forms, including but not limited to energy tanks, which increase the amount of health she has, missile packs, limited ammo weaponry that packs more punch than her arm cannon, various upgrades to said arm cannon, including ice beams to freeze enemies, and wave beams to shoot through walls, the grapple beam, despite being a beam, not a weapon, but a tool to grab certain surfaces and swing around like Tarzan, the speed booster, an unwieldy tool that makes Samus extremely fast, but also makes her very difficult to control, and the morph ball, which allows her to fit into tight spaces that a human otherwise would not be able to move around in. Meanwhile, in the Legend of Zelda series, you play as Link, a boy that's constantly finding new items to aid him in his quest. Again, this list is not meant to be comprehensive, but some of the ones that stand out the most to me include heart containers, which upgrade his health, sword upgrades, which bring nothing new to the table but increase the raw damage he can deal, boomerangs, useful for stunning enemies and grabbing out-of-reach items, and hitting switches, the hook shot, which allows him to pull himself to otherwise inaccessible locations, and the arrows, giving him some much-needed range and sometimes even capable of being imbued with magic, such as fire, ice, or even holy light. Just going off this list, you can see many direct similarities in the ideas behind these. Energy tanks and heart containers, sword and beam upgrades, the hookshot and the grapple beam, the ice beam and the ice arrows. Now, granted, Zelda, at least in more recent entries, does tend to have a much greater emphasis on storytelling and character interaction than Metroid does. But beyond that, the core concepts of these games are very similar. Explore the world, get a new item, use it to defeat the boss, use that same item to explore more of the world and upgrade yourself before finding the next item, rinse, and repeat. Some players say a game must be a 2D platformer in order to be considered a Metroidvania, and I have to ask, why? Both Metroid and Castlevania had 3D titles that followed the same format. Metroid Prime games were all very true to the feeling of the 2D games, despite being in a first-person perspective. And similarly, Lament of Innocence and Lords of Shadow 2 were both 3D titles that utilized the Metroidvania format for Castlevania. Would you argue that these are not Metroidvania titles? But let's take it a step further. From the words of Igarashi Koji, one of the main minds behind Castlevania Symphony of the Night and its recently released spiritual successor, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Yeah, real subtle, there you go. Regardless, when discussing the term Metroidvania, he stated, and I quote, with added emphasis, "I was actually surprised by the name. In my heart, I really wanted to create a Legend of Zelda style game. But I suppose when you turn Zelda into a 2D platformer, yes, it resembles Metroid." Unquote. So there you have it, not just from some random fanatic on the internet, but also from one of the most trusted names in the industry. Zelda Metroid, and the adventure-style Castlevania titles are all the same genre. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view, leave them in the comments down below. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. And if you like Metroidvanias, you'll want to stop by my YouTube channel next week. I'll be taking a look at Otto, a sword-clashing samurai adventure by Tiny Warrior Games. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I've worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.